Our AP Stats final project. For our project, we asked the question, how many hours of Netflix do you watch per day since quarantine started? We collected our data by using a poll on Jess's Instagram story and asking people how many hours of Netflix they watched each day in quarantine. They could respond with any number in the box, and we used that data to make our conclusions. We chose this method because while living in quarantine, people are often on their phones and on Instagram, so they would be more likely to see the post and respond, leading to a larger sample. We have several representations of our data here, and they're all made with the TI Nspire computer software. The first one here is our scatter plot, which shows that the data is pretty condensed between 0 and 4 with a couple numbers that are further out. The histogram goes the same way, pretty much shows the same thing as the scatter plot. We then have our box plot, which shows that there are 3 outliers. There are 2 at 0.8 and 1 at 0.12.
Next, we decided to conduct a confidence interval. So we use panic, and parameter is let mu equal the true average amount of hours people spend watching Netflix in quarantine. Then for assumptions, first is random. Since the poll was posted and we didn't know who would answer, we can consider this a random sample. For large counts, we use n is greater than or equal to 30 since we're using mean. And 43 people responded, which is greater than or equal to 30. And this shows that the data is approximately normal. For the 10% condition, population is greater than or equal to 10M. All of Jess's followers is greater than or equal to 430. Since Jess has 609 followers, we can use the standard deviation of the data. For N, we use one sample T interval for mean. And for I, we use the TI Nspire, which shows the upper and lower bound, the average, degrees of freedom, standard deviation, and end. And then for the conclusion, we are 95% confident that the true average amount of hours people spend watching Netflix in quarantine is between 2.302 and 3.698. For the hypothesis test, we use phantoms. So for parameter, let mu equal the true average amount of hours people spend watching Netflix in quarantine. For the null, mu equals 5, and for the alternative, mu is greater than or 5. For assumptions, random. Since the poll was posted and we didn't know who would answer, we can consider this a random sample. For large counts, n is greater than or equal to 30. 43 people responded, which is greater than or equal to 30. Since n is greater than or equal to 30, the data is approximately normal. 10% condition, population is greater than or equal to 10n. All of Jess's followers is greater than or equal to 430. Since Jess has 609 followers, we can use the standard deviation of the data. For n, we use one sample t-test for mean, and t/o, we use the TI Nspire, which you can see the t, p-value, degrees of freedom, standard deviation, and for m, p-value is 0.5 and alpha is 0.05, so 0.5 is greater than 0.05, so we do not reject the null. For conclusion, we do not have enough convincing evidence to conclude that the average number of hours people watching quarantine is over 5 hours.
For our conclusion, there are a few changes that could be made to improve our data. First one, we could use more data points which allow for a more precise conclusion of our data. We could using a different sampling method in which we could prevent volunteer bias would also be beneficial. And then repeating the study with different sample groups would allow us to get a broader set of data points.